Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's call with Congressman Max Miller. So sorry about that delay. The House floor ran a little long, and the Congressman got back here as soon as he can. So, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So during tonight's call, we'll be taking questions from constituents just like you. To ask a question, press *3 now. You may also sign up for our newsletter by pressing *6 at any time during the call. Again, press *3 to ask a question or *6 to subscribe to our newsletter. As a reminder, this is a family show, so please be respectful with your language. With that, I'll turn it over to Congressman Miller.
Thank you very much, and thank you for every single individual who's attended this telephone town hall this evening. And my apologies for running late. Votes ran a little behind, and we got here as fast as we could. So thank you for bearing with us, and thank you for being on the line. I am Congressman Max Miller, and welcome to our telephone town hall. If we were able to reach you by phone, press *3 to ask a question and press *6 to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're joining us online, submit your questions through the online question box. Sorry for getting started a little late. As I said, we're just coming from the House floor, and I also want to apologize to any of my constituents who may have been confused or misled by outside political activist groups who hosted an event where they advertised my attendance. All events like this one will be announced on my official social media accounts and websites, and I encourage everyone to reach out for the most accurate information through those channels. Before we get going with your questions, I wanted to give a brief congressional update. While no session of Congress is ever perfect, the 119th has gotten off to a great start as we've gotten right to work with top Republican priority with securing the border. I'm committed to securing our nation's borders and protecting our communities. In the past few years, we've unfortunately seen several stories about the victims of Biden's open border. That's why the first bill passed in the 119th was the Lake and Riley Act, because it is more critical than ever that we stop allowing criminals to flood into our country. I was also proud to vote for the Halt Fentanyl Act to ensure law enforcement agencies have the tools that they need to keep this dangerous drug, which really is the drug of death, off of our streets and impose harsher penalties for drug dealers bringing fentanyl into our communities. For those of you just joining, if you were able to reach me by phone, press *3 to ask a question and press *6 to subscribe to the newsletter. If you are joining us online, submit your questions to the online question box. In Congress, House Republicans are also making big strides in the budget reconciliation process. Republicans were able to unify and pass a budget resolution to provide a roadmap and a continuing resolution to keep the government open. People across the country have expressed concerns with the House budget resolution bill due to worries about cuts to federal spending programs. That said, I want to clarify what this budget resolution does and what it means for these programs. The budget resolution does not provide funding for federal programs or change tax law, which means that none of these programs will be changed through the resolution. Instead, it serves as a blueprint to help guide Congress and its committees on budget issues and set spending and revenue targets for Congress. Passing a budget resolution out of the House last month was the first step in the bicameral budget reconciliation process. Once again, if you are joining, if you were able to reach you by phone, press *3 to ask a question and *6 to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're joining us online, submit your questions to the online question box. When it comes to government funding, the House did its job and passed a continuing resolution, or otherwise known as a CR, to fund the federal government, while 212 House Democrats voted for a shutdown. While no CR is ever perfect, this bill gives us time to ensure that taxpayer dollars are being used responsibly and to advance President Trump's agenda. The Senate voted to pass this bill as well, keeping the government open. Going forward, I am excited to be a new member of the House Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction over tax policy. This is going to go ahead and strengthen our economy, and that starts at home. That's why I was proud to introduce the Permanent Tax Cuts for American Families Act, a bill to provide lasting financial relief to hardworking families across our nation by permanently increasing in standard tax deduction for non-itemizing taxpayers as established by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Each year, millions of American households opt for the standard deduction when filing for their income taxes. In Ohio's 7th Congressional District, where we are, more than 93% of taxpayers claim the standard deduction when filing their taxes. This legislation builds on the success of President Trump's tax reforms by ensuring families keep more of their hard-earned money, empowering them to save, invest, and build for brighter futures. Remember, if we were able to reach you at home, press *3 to ask a question. and press star 6 to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're joining us online, submit your questions to the online question box. As a member of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, I'm committed to advocating for the next generation needs of our district, especially NASA Glenn Research Center. As some of you may have heard, I'm leading the charge to bring NASA headquarters to Ohio, and I couldn't be more honored to be ahead of that task. The Trump administration has shown a commitment to reshaping the federal workforce by moving administrative agencies out of Washington, D.C., promoting a return to office culture, and improving government efficiency. A relocation of NASA headquarters aligns with these objectives by encouraging collaboration while reducing unnecessary federal overhead costs. Ohio is the historical home of aviation and ideally suited to lead NASA into the next frontier of both aeronautics and space exploration. We can talk more about that later, but as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about the opportunity of bringing almost 18,000 jobs back home to Northeast Ohio. Once again, I appreciate you joining this town hall, and I look forward to answering your questions. One more time, if we were able to reach you by phone, press star 3 to ask a question, and if you're joining us online, please keep your questions coming in the submission box.
Thank you, Congressman. We've got our first question here. It's going to be Walt from Parma, and he's got his question. Are you there, Walt?
Hey, yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hey, Walt. Yes, sir.
Hi there. So, Congressman, I'm here in Parma, and, you know, we haven't seen you. We haven't seen you since you won your re-election. You're not around. People have been looking for you. People want you to have an in-person town hall. We haven't seen you. Where are you?
Walt, thank you for that question, and I hope you're doing well. I've been in Parma plenty in terms of events and meeting with constituents, whether it's Councilman Kuzma or even seeing Mayor DeGeeter just a couple of weeks ago. But when we talk about town halls, you're right. Look, last term, I participated in 19 town halls, and I'm proud to say that, and many of those were in person. However, this year, I'm just going to be very direct with you, Walt. There have been credible threats against both members of Congress and our staff, and I understand that people may not be happy with how President Trump's administration is doing things, and some people might even be very angry, which I can understand. But that being said, there's no excuse for violence, even if you are upset. And so when I can tell you that, you know, when people threaten my life or they threaten our staff's life, I'm a United States Marine. I'm not afraid to enter into the breach. But what I will not do is I will not put my own family and my own staff on the front lines for individuals who are making very credible death threats against our staff here in the 7th District. And that is the primary reason as to why. My hope is that we can continue to work through this process and that I will be back out there in person as I would love to be instead of doing a telephone town hall. But I truly appreciate your question and thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. Next, we're going to take a question here from online from Jean. And her question is, why did you vote for RFK Jr. to be in charge of Health and Human Services? His anti-vaccine and anti-science beliefs will lead to deaths from preventable diseases.
Well, Gene, thank you very much for that question. As a member of Congress and as a representative, I do not get to vote for a cabinet secretary. Only senators in the upper chamber get to vote to confirm a cabinet secretary. In regards to the secretary's views on being an anti-vaxxer, I've seen recently, just as a couple of weeks ago, that he's been promoting the measles vaccine for the outbreak that has happened in Texas. And one, sadly, that happened just a couple of days ago in Ohio, and it seems as if he has changed a little bit of his outlook since he's been in the seat. So it's my hope that he will continue to promote great vaccines that have been working with a proven track record continuously throughout our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Next, we're going to go to Thomas from North Olmsted. Thomas, you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead, Thomas.
Trump declared an energy emergency. So why, if there's an energy emergency, why are we stopping offshore wind and solar development? Both technologies are highly cost effective and used extensively worldwide.
Yes, thank you for that question. The President's opinion on this is that will continue to drive more energy by pushing almost out wind and solar, to produce more American manufacturing in oil and natural gas and renewable energy subsidies that we have here right here at home, actually, like sustainable aviational fuels that we're leading throughout Congress right now that will go ahead and turn corn, sorghum, and wheat into jet fuel. And we're doing everything we can, but I believe that is what the president is trying to achieve by limiting a lot of the solar panels which are manufactured in China and that are also shipped to Singapore to get around the tax loophole, which has been undercutting American energy and businesses within our country for a very long time. So I believe that the strategy that the president is doing when it comes to wind and solar is to continue to promote American energy. And I agree with you. I would like it to get there a little bit quicker than what we're on pace for right now, but I have faith that he can get it done.
Thank you, Congressman. We've got another caller on the line here. It looks like Joseph from Westlake. Give me just one moment here.
Hello?
Joseph, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, I'm coming up on 8-0, and I paid into Social Security for 42 years. And I'm a little bit worried about these people from, is it Doge or whatever it is, Musk and those people, what they're doing in Social Security. I mean, we screw. How are we going to protect Social Security? Huh?
My apologies, I lost you for a bit, but the crux of your question is how are we going to protect Social Security?
Yes.
Okay, so when it comes to Doge and Elon, that they're doing when it comes to looking at the federal government, programs in terms of Social Security that we handle in Congress have to be handled legislatively throughout passing or codifying a piece of legislation writ large. When it comes to what Mr. Musk is doing with Social Security, and to be very honest with you, we have in Congress not been incredibly privy to what he's doing with Social Security because we believe that he can't do very much with it. It is a mandatory spending program that he has within it. Right now, what the president has promised the American people throughout his campaign is that he is looking for no tax on Social Security to go ahead and help out that older demographic, and we're looking to make the program solvent throughout the process. So it is the hope throughout Doge that Mr. Musk will collect enough money throughout this process on the discretionary side that will continue to make the mandatory programs that we have in Congress a little bit more solvent than where they actually are. But this is no different than any other president who goes up there when they talk about rooting, waste, fraud, and abuse. And so I've seen over the past couple of days just doing a little bit of education and watched a couple of clips, and it's very similar, just not to play devil's advocate, but from President Clinton to President Obama gave very long speeches about government waste, fraud, and abuse and how they were handling it. And this is how the president is looking at it. But what I can tell you is I have not seen anything so far as your congressman on the Ways and Means Committee about anything that will affect right now those programs.
Thank you, Congressman. We have one online that's kind of following up on that. It says here from Caitlin, what are you doing to protect veteran benefits, Social Security, and SNAP benefits?
Thank you, Caitlin. I truly appreciate that question. And as I mentioned earlier, as a Marine Corps veteran myself, I stand in awe of the men and women who serve our country with dedication, sacrifice, and valor every single day. And that goes for everyone that we have in law enforcement as well and first responders. But we ask our service members to protect our country, and their commitment demands that we ensure that they are treated fairly and receive the benefits that they have earned. And I would like to say that again, to receive the benefits that they have earned from their return home from their service. And House Republicans just passed a clean CR, and within this clean CR, I'm proud to say it included funding and more funding for our military and veterans. It provides services across the nation. It also contains an additional $6 billion for the Toxic Exposures Funds to treat veterans with service-related exposures to toxic substances, and that is why I was proud to support that CR, as well as many other things that we're doing throughout Congress to ensure our veterans' safety. But the biggest thing that concerns me just as a veteran and continuing to talk to other veterans is we need to make sure that we're always there and everyone in the community to look out for one another. And if you are a veteran, if you're out there, and if you are listening, and you do need help, please contact our office or a fellow veteran so we can be helpful where they can as well. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Congressman. Just want to remind everyone on the line here that if we got you on the phone, to press *3 if you'd like to ask a question. Our next caller here is Jacob from Brunswick. And just remember to everyone else, if you're on the phone, press *3, and if you're online, keep those questions coming in the chat box. Jacob, are you there?
Yes. Hey, Congressman. Just wondering, with the shakeup that seems to be coming for the Department of Education, how can we help sort of close the skills gap that we know we have with folks who are trying to go into the trades? I know, we have a lot of job openings in the trades and in manufacturing. How can we help get them the training they need to get ready to get those jobs?
Thank you. Jacob, I really appreciate you asking that question with the changes that are going on with education. And I'm proud to say that I continue to support technical education and gave a quarter of my salary last term to the Medina Technical Educational Career Center and the Wayne County Career Center. And it's my hope to do the same again this term. But reducing the Department of Education's footprint, this will allow, in my belief, and from what we've talked to other people in Congress, this will allow the resources to be directed straight towards the classrooms instead of Washington bureaucrats. No one knows our schools better than parents who are at home. And I can just tell you, as a member of Congress who's been up here just for about 2 years and a few months, you do not want these individuals making decisions for your children's education. I can promise you that. You want somebody who has oversight of that school back home to make sure that the money is going just to teach the curriculum that children should be learning. And when it comes to technical education, and you'll hear the passion in it, we are 2% down in manufacturing across every single trade in this country. We have had to bring in more than individuals from more than 5 different states just to finish the Sherwin-Williams project and the Intel project down in Columbus. We have to go ahead and be pragmatic. And I want to be clear on something. I am not anti-immigrant at all. I want people to come here the right and the legal way. And if that is an avenue to where we can help close the skills gap until we can build our generational knowledge for unfortunately, a generation that got set behind due to COVID and lockdowns, then I believe we can play catch up. And I believe the president sees it that way as well. And I believe that we have a wonderful way ahead with redirecting the resources back home. And let's just say what is true. You don't need a 4-year degree to become a millionaire. Right now, 18 years of age, you can go down to USW and get paid anywhere between $80,000 to $100,000 a year, 4 days on, 4 days off. Yes, is the work hard? Yes, it's hot in Cleveland. Yes, it's cold in Cleveland. But you know what? This is where we need our players in the game and Americans to move us forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Congressman. The next question, we've got another caller here. We've had a few callers with this question, but we're going to bring Heidi from Broadview Heights. Just one moment here.
Yep, I'm
Heidi,
here.
you there?
Yeah.
All right.
My question is, we're very excited to hear the possible adding of jobs and moving NASA from D.C. to the Cleveland area. I'm just curious, who is our competition and who are we going to be bidding against NSTAT, and how much is Elon Musk going to be influencing that decision on whether he gets it or it goes to NASA?
That is an awesome question. Thank you. So right now we are competing with the state of Alabama, we are competing with the state of Texas, and we are competing with the state of Florida. Here's why I believe, and well, I don't believe it, I know it to be true. We are the best spot. If you look at the cost of living assessment by Cleveland, Ohio, and if you look at NASA Glenn Science Research Center, which is right there next to the airport in Brook Park, it is one of the biggest untapped resources and a lot of vacant buildings that can house the thousands of employees that we would relocate from the Washington, D.C. metro area to Cleveland, Ohio. A couple of things why this is attractive, not just because of some of the affordable housing and the cost of living assessment, it's also because when you're relocating all of these families, a lot of them, it's a shorter commute. It's going to take some time to relocate individuals, and, people have kids and spouses, and Cleveland's a lot shorter of a drive time and flight, not to mention Northeast Ohio. We have 0 natural disasters. It is one of the best investments for the federal government to make, really, to put NASA headquarters in Northeast Ohio. What we are fighting for, just to be clear, we are not fighting to have any of the rocket launches out of Northeast Ohio. What we want to continue to work on is nuclear fusion and to move the headquarters there and the operational component, and the launches will still be out of Cape Canaveral and Kennedy down in Florida. Now, to answer your question about Mr. Musk and his involvement, yes, do I think he will be involved to a certain extent? But I believe that we have an ace up our sleeve, and that's the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who I think will hopefully close the deal for us when it comes to this. He was our Senator of Ohio for a couple of years. Now he's the Vice President of the country, and he's an Ohioan. I believe that if he can continue to make a strong push for this, that it really will direct a lot of great opportunity to Northeast Ohio. And like I said, I know I'm biased, but this makes all the sense in the world just from a business standpoint of how we're looking at carrying it on for the future of NASA. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Congressman. Next up, we've got a question from the online queue here, and it says, what is Max Miller's reasoning behind voting in favor of HCon Res 14, which was the budget resolution, which will ultimately have to lead to cuts in essential services like Medicaid?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I want to be clear when it comes to Medicaid, and I want to be abundantly clear. So I know people have heard things on either side, and I'm just going to tell you the very direct truth of what I know to be true as your member of Congress sitting here on the Ways and Means Committee. I've heard it just like you all have, and probably everyone on this phone call, that President Trump has said he has promised to save Medicaid. And that's exactly what we plan to do. And I know a lot of people question that, but it's just a budget resolution at this point for a negotiating table. And right now, what is very frustrating, and this happens in politics, whether Republicans are in the minority or Democrats are in the minority, right now the Democrats are trying to mislead the American people about Medicaid reform. There hasn't been one thing to this moment in time since President Trump has gotten in office that he has done to Medicaid. And President Trump and my Republican colleagues in Congress are working to ensure that Medicaid is sturdy and robust for the people who need it most, and that is what we're dedicated to do. In 2024, the federal government spent an estimated $160 billion on improper payments. That's almost $1,200 per household. That is unacceptable. You cannot run a business like that, and if anyone did, they would be bankrupt, and it is just not a way to do things. Medicaid must remain a safety net program, period, for the people who it is intended to serve: low-income children, pregnant women, seniors, and individuals with disabilities. And look, I've heard from the most vulnerable, including those impacted by children's diseases, regarding the significance of the health safety net for the underdeserved. But not working age, able-bodied adults, now that the House budget resolution is passed, Republicans are ready to work with President Trump and deliver on his promises. And his promise is not to cut Medicaid, and we are standing by that.
Thank you, Congressman. Next up, we've got James from Strongsville. James, are you there? James, are you there?
James?
James? All right, we might have lost James, but I've got his question here. He was going to ask you, Congressman, are you going to support the president's stance on no tax on Social Security and also his stance to deport illegal immigrants?
So, yes, I support President Trump's stance on no tax on Social Security. And when it comes to the deportation of illegal immigrants, I just want to make a few things abundantly clear. Migrant encounters at the southern border were insane under President Biden. They just were. Deadly drugs like fentanyl were pouring in across the entire country. And I know a lot of people made fun of me when I called Ohio a border state, but it's very real. 60,000 Americans have died of fentanyl overdose for the last few years. And that is nothing to laugh at or balk at when we say that Ohio is a border state. And it's sad that I know a few people, if not many on this call, probably have known someone that has passed away from a fentanyl overdose. Thankfully, just last month, border encounters were down 94% from 1 year ago. This is the lowest nationwide average apprehensions in CBP history. This is what President Trump campaigned on. Illegal immigration directly impacts public safety and places a financial burden on our taxpayers. By deporting individuals who have entered the country unlawfully, we send a clear message that we are committed to protecting American citizens and securing our economy. Resources should be allocated to American workers and legal immigrants who contribute to our nation's success. And let's be clear on one thing. No one is anti-immigrant. We want people to come here and to flourish and to achieve the American dream, just like almost all of our families did, who are probably immigrants on this phone call. And that is what we would like to achieve with President Trump, is to bring people here the legal and right way, and to get people who literally broke the law out of our country, which I don't believe is that unreasonable.
Thank you, Congressman. Next up, we've got another caller on the line, Sherry from Bay Village. Sherry, are you there? Sherry, are you there? Sherry, you're with us? All right, looks like we might have lost Sherry, but her question was just kind of building on one from earlier, Congressman. She just wanted to know a little bit more about your work supporting career and technical education programs.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I wish Sherry was still on. I'm very happy and proud and honored to talk about what we've done in technical education. Sponsored the legislation to expand Pell Grants to short-term career and technical education. Sponsored legislation to enhance school safety. I have co-sponsored the Parents' Bill of Rights to ensure transparency for parents in their children's classroom. And I've co-sponsored Educational Choice for Children Act. And what that does is it expands school choice by providing tax incentives for individuals and businesses that donate to nonprofit scholarship organizations. And we will continue to support education at every single level. But the one thing that I will continuously promote and advocate for is technical education. As I had mentioned earlier, it is one of the things that we need to reinvigorate back within our country. And I believe that it should be taught at almost a preschool level all the way up back into high school. And I think that we would be a lot more successful as a country with more revenue in that regard.
Thank you, Congressman. Next, we're going to go to Mark from Medina. Mark, are you with us?
I am. Congressman, thank you for taking this question. So mine's more of a conceptual perspective on the balance of power. It feels like the executive branch is, I think we've written over 100 executive orders. Many of those should have been laws written by Congress, and it feels like Congress has given up the power of the purse string. So your perspective on the balance of power, now that you're new to this organization, your view on the function or dysfunction and the roles and responsibilities vis-a-vis the executive branch in Congress.
It's a great question, and this comes up in conversation amongst members of Congress all the time. And look, I'm be very direct. The answer to your question is yes. Members of Congress for a long time, in my opinion, have abdicated too much power to the executive branch. But to be clear, it's not just because it's President Trump. I also watched President Biden in my first term undo about 80 executive orders on his first day, setting policy and then signing them into temporary law as well. Members of Congress, there is something out there. It is called the REINS Act, REIGNS, REINS Act. And what this does is introduced by the gentle lady out of Florida, Kat Kammack. And what this piece of legislation would do is it would limit the scope of the executive power of the president when they sign an executive order. And something like that, a piece of legislation like that has to be signed. I don't care if you're a Republican president or a Democrat president. There should be no one who should be in the Oval Office and upend and direct markets the way that almost every president has done since I've been alive for the last 36 years that I've been on this earth. I watched President Biden do it with EVs, and we're watching President Trump do it a little bit as well throughout this process. So I'm with you. We are trying to pass the REINS Act in Congress. We believe that it is the only mechanism that will rein in the scope of the executive power, regardless if you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent. But something like that in our lifetime needs to pass without question, and hopefully quickly.
Thank you, Congressman. And for those of you on the line, just remember *3 if you'd like to ask a question. And if you're online, keep them coming in the question box. Next here, we're going to go to Bruce from Wadsworth. Bruce, are you there?
I am. I'm interested in getting your perspective on what's happening in Ukraine and what appears to be a turn in our political view towards supporting the the democratic nation of Ukraine. I'm especially concerned with the fact that the United States, for the first time in the UN resolution, voted with China, North Korea, and Russia. And I'd like to know your feelings on that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Look, we have a very strong Ukrainian population within the 7th District of Ohio, and I have been proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our constituents, and I understand that this is a very emotional and tough issue for a lot of people within our district, both on the right and on the left. But what I continuously just familiarize people with is I am an extension of all of you. I'm an advocate for the people of the 7th District, and when the vote came up for the supplemental last term to help Ukraine, I proudly voted in support of Ukraine to give them the weapons that they need to finish the war, because I believe that's better than sending blood. And, you know, without that, I'll just tell you, the Ukrainian people have shown immense resilience in the face of Russia's unprovoked aggression. I can just tell you, in the wars that we fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, there weren't too many people and too many Iraqis and Afghanis that wanted to fight alongside our brothers and sisters and fight for freedom in their country. We now look at a country like Ukraine that has lost over 500,000 people, giving everything that they have, blood and treasure. What the president is doing, that is his foreign policy, but as an advocate for the people of the 7th and for the people who I represent, I will very much tell you that Russia started this war. Ukraine did not start the war. And, in terms of supporting Ukraine, I believe at this point, sadly, the best thing really is to work out some type of deal to stop the amount of casualties that are happening on both sides. And it pains me to say that, but throughout this process, I believe that is the best way forward. But when it comes to these issues, I'm an advocate of the people of our district and an extension of only them.
Thank you, Congressman. We've got another question from the online queue here from Joyce, and she asks, why are you not supporting the judicial branch of the USA, but allowing the administration to ignore court verdicts, rulings, and findings?
Well, that is a really good question. As a member of Congress, I work in the legislative branch, and I unfortunately don't sit on the oversight committee or jurisdiction that could bring that into play. But, here's what I can tell you on that topic, is that the House is working overtime to limit the abuses of activist federal judges without question. The House Judiciary Committee, which is led by Chairman Jordan out of Ohio, is working to expose the worst offenders in high-profile hearings. And there's no one better than Chairman Jordan, as we've seen him do it time and time again throughout his career. But we are preparing urgent legislative action, like the bill from Representative Darrell Issa to stop unfounded nationwide injunctions. Other legislation would require these matters really to be referred to a 3-judge district court. Activist judges should not hold enough power to limit the administration, even when it comes to urgent national security concerns. And one of the things that I briefly want to touch on, that I understand a district judge ruled that President Trump could not send, some illegal immigrants that he had made a deal with the El Salvadorian president to receive. That is foreign policy. That is not a role for a district judge to get involved in and to make a decision when a president of a country picks up a phone and calls another president of a country and exchanges monetary or anything else in exchange for prisoners or assets or goods. That is a deal that two leaders have made. That is not for any district judge to go ahead and to intervene within that process. So, there are some things that are absolutely legitimate that I believe that he has done the right thing in regards to that, and there are other things that will be litigated in court.
Thank you, Congressman. For those that are on the phone, if you haven't asked a question yet, remember you can press *3, and if you're online, keep those questions coming in the box. All right, next one here, Congressman, on the phone, we've got Christine from Parma Heights. Christine, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello?
Hey, Christine.
Yep, Christine, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for taking this question. It's extremely important to me. I'm very concerned about election integrity. And President Trump has mentioned watermark paper ballots, voter ID, proof of citizenship, same-day voting, national holiday. I was wondering, could there be a bill for election integrity for federal elections?
So there could be, but here's where I bring hesitancy into saying that only a few terms ago in Congress, when Speaker Pelosi was here and Democrats had the majority, they pushed something called H.R. 1, and that was called For the People Act. What that was going to go ahead and do is it was going to federalize elections across the board. And this is something, just as a Republican and on principle and ideologically, I do not want the federal government actually playing more so within our elections at all. I would rather keep this to the states. And just to echo this, last Congress we did go ahead and pass the SAVE Act. And so what this means essentially is that Americans should decide American elections, right? Allowing non-citizens to vote in our elections only makes our elections less secure, and that's all that this legislation said, is that you have to be an American citizen to vote in our elections. Last term in Congress, Democrats said that the SAVE Act was unnecessary because the federal law already bars non-citizens from voting. However, that's not true. Under the National Voter Registration Act, as it stands, without the SAVE Act, states do not have the tools they need to ensure those who are registering to vote as actual citizens. What this legislation did is we had to literally pass a piece of legislation that gave the states the right to ask the question if you are an American citizen or not in order to vote in the election. And that's what the SAVE Act essentially is in a nutshell. And I'm proud that we're able to get that through. But we're going to continue to make sure that our elections are safe every single time. And with President Trump in office, I know that is one of his top priorities.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from the online queue from Jonathan. And Jonathan wants to know, why is it important that we continue to support Israel? Haven't we done enough?
I believe it's incredibly important to support Israel. There's an old saying, first they come for the Saturday people and then they come for the Sunday people. And that's exactly what will happen if the United States fails to protect the only standing democracy within the Middle East that stands for freedom. And that's exactly what the state of Israel is. We've seen anti-Semitism throughout our country skyrocket like crazy. I can tell you that last term, I was only one of 2 Republican Jewish individuals in all of Congress. So even with the Senate, I was just 2 out of 535. And I have never received the amount of death threats and threats on my life and my family just for being someone who's Jewish. It was incredibly life-altering for me. I truly never experienced anti-Semitism like that within our country as someone who put on a uniform and fought for everyone regardless of race, religion, or creed. But let's be clear, Israel really isn't a partisan issue. Make no mistake, there was a ceasefire before this war started by Hamas on October 7th. The blood of Israelis and Palestinians is on the blood and on the hands of only one group, and that group is Hamas. Israel has the right to exist in peace and defend its people, and Israel is only acting in its defense. And I would like to be clear, Hamas can end this war today, and they could have ended it a long time ago if they just would release the hostages that they took from the Israeli people that are not just Jewish, but every religion under the sun. And hatred against Jews goes far against Hamas. And we've seen this right here in the United States, and it's intolerable. And to be clear, we should push back against any forms of hate, not just anti-Semitism, but if you look at the incredible skyrocketing of anti-Semitic attacks and physical attacks on the Jewish people, it is incredibly alarming.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from another live caller. We've got Brad from Lodi. Brad, are you there?
Yes, I am. Comcheck, their veteran buddy, over.
Go ahead, Brad.
Hi, Max. Nice to speak with you on the recorded live audience. My gosh, that's a first for me. My question is in regards to agriculture and reclaiming all of our agriculture land that is in the hands of foreign investors and entities, and also the food processing. Many states have taken the initiative. Ohio's done some. I know Kristi Noem and Governor Huckabee have taken major steps in that direction, and I want to see that type of action applied across the nation and get it back into the hands of our farmers, verified into the hands of our farmers, and not some big conglomerates, because we have a lot of people out here in rural America that could make a decent living or supplement their living and produce, healthy, fresh-grown food in that respect. So that's my question, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. Appreciate President Trump. I've been a lifelong Republican since 1975, so keep at it and keep up the good work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And I just want to say thank you for being a farmer. We need more people like yourself within our country and our younger generation going into your line of work, because without individuals like you, we don't survive here within our country whatsoever. But in terms of your concern of protecting family farms, that's why I'm here. I'm your advocate. I remember being on the Agricultural Committee last term, and I'm smiling because I went up to Chairman Thompson and I said, hey, Chairman, I have a provision I would like to include in. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, not only should we box out, say, China, North Korea, Iran, a few other nefarious countries from buying any type of farmland or 1 square foot in our country because we couldn't do it over there, we should also look at people like Bill Gates, who've been buying up just thousands and thousands of acres of farmland just so he can conserve it, just so we can't farm on it. And I think that is also unacceptable. And I would like to see a forced sale of any wealthy individual who is buying up farmland within our country after a subset of years to be forced to put it on the market. Not so they can take a hit of money, but if you're buying up our farmland, whether you're a foreigner or even an American, to stop American agriculture, we have to step in to make sure that we can continue to provide that fruitful and soil land that you all need every single year in order to grow your crops. And, I feel for our farmers and ranchers right now through everything that we're going through with the tariffs. And look, we are going to get this farm bill done this year. We have an opportunity now with the House and the Senate and the presidency to where we have historic numbers in the farm safety net and crop insurance and some specialty crops that will be covered. But, we are here thinking of you and doing everything we can on your behalf to protect our farmland and to go ahead and get this farm bill across the finish line for every one of our farmers and ranchers.
Thank you, Congressman. Next up, we're going to have Jose from Strongsville. Jose, are you there?
Yes, sir. Brash Hashem. Brash Hashem, how you doing? I'm a 20-year veteran as well. Been in the military, just retired not too long ago, about 3 years now. And I work at the steel mill down in Cleveland Cliffs. And I just wanted to know, I heard that President Trump is going to propose or possibly allow U.S. Steel to make a deal with Nippon. I want to know if that's going to hurt our steel industry, because we were number one for quite some time in Cleveland, and I just wanted to see if we can maintain that and probably build on that in Cleveland.
So, Jose, thank you for that question. I can very much tell you, and we can even send you the clips. I'm proud to say that I've been on the floor of the House of Representatives talking about how U.S. Steel should be remained and owned by an American company and operated. And I've been very clear, and I've been a very big advocate that it should remain, in the United States and owned and operated by an individual, an American company within the United States. And so I share the same concern that you do for our area when it comes to the Nippon Steel deal. But I will tell you right now, in terms of how it's going, we are listening to what is going on. We are monitoring it. But I would like to see the status quo, which is Cleveland Cliffs continue to operate the way that they're doing, and that we can find another path forward for U.S. Steel to be owned by an American company to continue to see our area grow. And I also just want to tell you, brother, thank you for your service, for your 20 years to this country, and thank you to your family and friends who allowed you to do that.
Thank you, Congressman. And those of you on the phone, just remember to press *3 if you'd like to ask a question. Our next caller here will be Nicole from Wadsworth. Nicole, are you there?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for taking my call. I actually want to know we've been voting Republican because we support Republican values, and we support what Doge and Trump and Elon are doing. And I would like to know what you are doing to also help with the reckless spending and to stop waste. And if you don't mind, a second question, will you support Vivek Ramaswamy for our governor?
Those are two very good questions. Number one, I believe what Doge is doing is they are looking for all the waste, fraud, and abuse throughout the federal government to go ahead. And yes, when it comes to Doge to a certain extent, I haven't met with Mr. Musk and I haven't met with them whatsoever. But, in terms of what they're doing for the federal government, in terms of Doge, I think that they're doing a decent job. I have faith in the president and his agenda of what he's doing to carry it out. And I believe that we're off to a decent track. When it comes to any type of political question in terms of Mr. Ramaswamy, I haven't had the opportunity to meet the gentleman, but I cannot answer political questions on an official call line. Otherwise, I get in a lot of trouble. So if you would like to ask me offline or something else, it's a very big ethics rule that I do not want to break at the moment. But thank you very much for that question.
Thank you, Congressman. The next question we have here comes from the online queue from Jeb. And Jeb asked, are illegal border crossings down under Trump? What can we do to keep illegal immigrants from taking over our towns and cities?
Okay, well, I can tell you that, thankfully, and I said this probably about maybe 20 minutes ago in a previous question, I'm proud to say that just last month alone, border encounters were down 94% from 1 year ago. And that really is the lowest nationwide average in apprehensions in CBP history. But what I will tell you is that, once again, the President Trump is doing a good job of getting individuals who came here illegally and who have committed crimes out of our country. But in terms of people invading and taking it over, we are not anti-immigrant, the Republican Party. And I believe this administration, rightly focused its operations on the worst of the worst to be deported first. And I want to be clear about that. They're not going in. They're literally getting rid of individuals who have committed horrific crimes. And this includes notorious gang leaders that we have literally found within our country that crossed our southern border. And yes, a lot of them are murderers, and a lot of them are drug dealers, and a lot of them are responsible for, essentially dealing these drugs of death to our kids. And so I believe that he's doing everything he needs to do in order to get the country back on track.
Thank you, Congressman. We've got another one from the online queue here from Jessica. And Jessica wants to know, what is your stance on guns and the Second Amendment?
Yes. I know it's an emotional topic and a tough one, but I am a strong believer and supporter in the Second Amendment. However, I am also worried about the safety of our schools at the same time while balancing both of those. I do believe that we need to keep firearms out of the wrong hands, such as violent criminals, but we also have to harden our schools to keep our kids safe, and that is our number one priority. We cannot stop bad people from doing bad things all of the time, unfortunately, and that is a sad reality of life. However, I believe Congress should not be restricting the rights of law-abiding citizens to bear arms whatsoever, and I'm a proud co-sponsor of the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, as well as a proud co-sponsor of the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act.
Thank you, Congressman. Just want to remind everyone, keep those questions coming, and if you have a question on the phone, press *3. We're going to be able to go for another 10 minutes here because we got started a little late. Next, we're going to go to John from Solon. John, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, John, go ahead.
Hey, Congressman, I have a question. So, come July, it's reported that we're going to run out of money unless we raise the debt ceiling. I'd like to know, since you're on the Ways and Means Committee, where do you stand on that? And do you agree with increasing the debt ceiling to give out tax cuts to the 1%?
So if we do not increase the debt ceiling, the government will fold and we will default on our loans and the entire market will crater. What the top line number is, sir, is it's at $4.92 trillion, and everything to that marker right now out of the FY budget resolution has a pay for to make it deficit neutral. The only thing that someone could say to play devil's advocate, which would be to play devil's advocate, at the end of the day, the average taxpayer is going to see a 22% hike if we don't get this done. And that's the core of the issue right now. If we do not raise the debt, we are going to default on our loans. The country will crater. We won't have Social Security. We won't have Medicare. We won't have Medicaid. And it is, at this point, the best thing that we can do for the American people and the most responsible thing we can do. I think the most reckless thing we could do, sir, would be to shut the government down. And every single Democrat in the House voted to do that just last week. And that also included a pay raise for troops as well as actually extenders on Medicaid and health extenders to those programs specifically that they voted no on. I don't think that this is the best situation that we have found ourselves in throughout our country, but right now it is the only situation that can face. Not to mention the last thing that I'll add, I fundamentally, respectfully disagree with the tax hikes or the tax cuts for the 1%. The average person within our country, when the TCJA was put in 2017, received on average an $1,800 to $2,000 tax cut. That went from everyone from a socioeconomic background, from everyone from the lowest rung to the highest rung. It also was able to give our economy $5.2 trillion of economic revenue in 1 year. The Congressional Budget Office slated that it was actually going to, in revenue-wise, get $1.2 trillion less. I believe with the tax cuts that the president has in place, for no tax on Social Security for an older demographic that is really struggling right now, I believe that he's trying to do the right thing by the American people in a very tough time where inflation was still around, interest rates were still very high for the last 4 years, and he's doing his very best in order to keep something stable. And we have to keep in mind, and I understand people are upset, but it's been 60 days since the man has taken office. We haven't passed enough legislation to actually effectuate real change within the country, and a lot of this is just more outrage because we just had an election. And, you know, look, if Republicans were in the minority, we would be saying the same thing, but it's just not true.
Thank you, Congressman. We've got another question here from online. It says, Congressman, my child plays high school sports, and I see that you voted for the Protecting Women and Girls Sports Act. What is your stance on transgender students?
I understand this is also a very emotional issue, and I'm certainly aware of these issues. I have talked to some of these individuals, and they're statistically insignificant, and they're happening right here in our own backyard. I want to be clear. We have a mental health crisis in our country. Congress acted just last year to finally start to address this through funding, but it's not enough. There's a radical movement to encourage hormone therapy and surgery among children, and I'll always be a voice for common sense. I fundamentally believe that if you are 18 years of age and you would like to do whatever you would like to do with your body, that is your right, and no one can tell you one way or the other. But if you're a child, and I just remember growing up that your brain doesn't fully develop until your mid to late 20s, I find it very hard to accept that we are promoting this type of ideology throughout our schools. And balls and strikes, men are physically stronger than women. And we have seen real damage from some of these athletes causing brain damage on a volleyball court, or a man shattering female records in a swimming pool. And that is not okay. My daughter will not grow up in a world where she will not have an equal opportunity to compete against females, and I will not let that happen.
Thank you, Congressman. We've got time for one more live caller here. We're going to go to Jay from Olmsted Township. Jay, are you there?
Yes, thank you for the call. My question is regarding tariffs. How are they going to initially impact the American economy? And if they're really a tool that can be a financial resource and bring jobs back to America, how come we're just hearing about it now and they're so far in the media? Thank you.
With that said, I believe the United States and in this whole tariff strategy with President Trump, we have to do a lot more to strengthen our domestic production and develop effective enforceable tools to a level playing field for trade. That's what I believe President Trump is doing. He has put these tariffs in place to get, well, it was Prime Minister Trudeau and President Sheinbaum, both out of Canada and Mexico, to come to the table. And here's why. 3 years ago, for just about 3 years ago, Canada and Mexico negated the USMCA agreement. Mexico negated it with GMO corn. They said it was a science-based revision. It is not. It's a protectionist revision that has crushed our corn on digital commodities. Canada put 318% dairy tariffs on all of our dairy producers, and right there in Wayne County and in Holmes County and Medina, we have some great dairy producers who've been affected by this, and the president has had enough. We have lost $36 billion in just agricultural crop trade due to things like that, and our quote-unquote allies really just kind of, stepping on our toes, and we've been letting them do it. Now is the time to get these individuals into free trade agreements. It is my hope, though, that these tariffs do come down quickly. I do not want to see them go on for a very long time. I believe that the president can negotiate with both Canada and Mexico in a timely manner to go ahead. Right now, the market is back in correction. It had a good day today, up about 500 points. So I believe that people are adjusting to what they're seeing in the tariffs. And, Chairman Powell came out and said that it's not going to be lasting forever. I believe with this strategy, we're going to get better trade agreements for our country. And once the tariffs roll off, you be ready, because that stock market's going to fly back by a few thousand points.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you everyone who's participated today. We're running out of time, but we really appreciate everyone's call, and I just want to give the Congressman a chance to wrap up here.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank you all for your participation. And I've always believed in a common sense approach to government, and I honest to God do think this was a productive conversation tonight. I truly would like to continue to do these things back in the community. And, hopefully for those who have been on for the entire call, you heard that I've done over 20 town halls back home, whether they've been telephone town halls or the vast majority in person. And I'd be honored to do one back at home. But all that I ask, just, as a normal individual like yourself, is that when you call our office, please treat our staff with respect. Please do not swear at them. Please do not threaten them. Please do not make death threats to any one of our staff who work incredibly hard every single day, or myself as well. I mean, this is why we are not out there at the moment, because we have credible threats not only to our staff, but also to my family. And I just want to thank everyone this evening for being on this call, having a productive conversation. And it's my hope that I can see everyone in person very, very soon. And God bless you all. I know we'll never agree on every single thing, but know that you have somebody up here, whether you agree with or don't agree with, that is really doing the education and working incredibly hard on your behalf. And I will always have a direct answer for something. So God bless you all. I hope you have a great evening. And please just turn on some Netflix or something. No CNN, no Fox, no MSNBC. Go relax. March Madness is on, and I hope everyone has a good evening.